Hello and welcome to another episode of The Chubby Chef. Today we are going to do another baking episode, which is a little strange because as you know, I don't like baking, but this is one of the easiest things that you can bake. It is cornbread. Don't be confused by the name. It's not actually a bread, it's more of a cake. Which makes it that much easier because it's a really simple batter. There's no yeast, there's no rising, and it's really delicious. This is something my family has liked, and I didn't make very often until recently, and now I'm doing like multiple batches at a time. So this is going to be a tutorial on cornbread. And before we continue, I'd like to say a special shout out to my brother James, to my friend Shelley Williams, and to my friend Christopher Laurie for your comments on how to make this video better, easier to understand, and a little bit more easy to follow, I suppose. So let's get started. The first step is to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. While you're doing that, you're going to take your cast iron skillets. I'm using 2 skillets. Typically the recipe calls for 1 skillet of 9 inches. I don't have a 9-inch skillet, so I'm using an 8 and a 4. The bread's not going to rise as much as it would if you had a true 9-inch, but it's what I have to work with, so that's what we're going to use. So while the oven's preheating, we take the skillets and we put them in the oven because part of the recipe calls for the skillets to be scalding hot when you pour in the batter, because that's going to start the process. So now we're going to start on the batter. This here is a recommendation from Shelley Williams, as I mentioned earlier. All of my ingredients are pre-measured. These are all the dry ingredients. So we've got 1 1/4 cups of cornmeal, 3/4 of a cup of flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to work on the wet ingredients. The wet ingredients include 1 stick of butter, that's 8 tablespoons, a half a cup, 1 cup of buttermilk, 1/3 cup of whole milk, and 2 eggs lightly beaten. Okay, buttermilk. This is something that not a lot of people have on hand. I know I certainly don't. So here is a baker's tip, and I've used this on cakes, I've used this in this cornbread. Anytime you need buttermilk, what you can do, and I'm not kidding, is you take 1 tablespoon of white vinegar and mix it with milk. And yes, it'll curdle the milk, but that's the point. You want it to get a little bit sour. That's what you're looking for. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so that's going to sit for about 3 to 5 minutes, so that'll be the last wet ingredient that we do. So next we're going to do the butter. We're going to nuke the stick of butter that I had in for about 33 seconds. It would be helpful if I actually put the butter in. I apologize, I'm a little bit scatterbrained at the moment. 1 stick of butter, and here we go. So while that's nuking, we're going to add to our dry ingredients the eggs that we've beaten. We're going to do 1/3 cup of whole milk. Okay, so we've added the third cup of whole milk, and we've added the eggs. So now we're going to add the butter that I just nuked. Now it's important here to save a tablespoon of butter because you're going to need that for the pans. So here's a tablespoon, which I'm just going to put it into a cup with a little bit because I'm using 2 pans, a little bit more. Okay. So here goes in the butter. Melted butter, 1 stick minus the tablespoon and a bit, with the whole milk, and then the buttermilk's been sitting here for about 2 minutes. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit curdled, which is what you want, like I said, and that goes right in. And now we gotta mix. Okay, this is all nice and mixed up. This is kind of the consistency you're looking for. A nice yellow gold, almost looks like a cream corn, and that's, well, corn cake, so I guess that's what you're looking for. So next, we just gotta wait for our oven to get to 425. Once it gets to 425, we'll take out the cast iron skillets, we'll throw in the tablespoon and a bit of butter that we preserved, and then goes in the batter. At this point, we're going to turn the oven down to 375. And in goes the butter that we reserved. A little bit in here. A little bit in here. A little bit more. So you see how that's sizzling. Now goes the batter. And I'm going to ask my assistant to come help me. Okay, so now we've poured the batter into the skillets. Now they're in the oven. You're going to see that they've already started to cook on the sides. That's because the skillets were scalding hot to begin with. We've reduced the temperature to 375 degrees. And now we're going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And after that, they should be done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 38 seconds left. They're looking pretty good. I've done this a couple of times, or more than a couple, so I know that, based on my experience, that these are pretty much done. But the final test will be the toothpick test, where, like a cake, you stick a toothpick in the center, and if it comes out clean, it is ready to go. While we're waiting for that, take a look at my... Never mind. I was going to say take a look at our beautiful kitchen table that we've decorated, but I moved all the junk that was on the counter there, so not exactly pretty. But I'll show you another video of all that. Oh, we're ready. Here we go. Okay, here we go with the toothpick test number 1. Oh, that is a little bit wet, so maybe another 2 minutes. Minutes, but this one is certainly done only because it's smaller and it takes less time to cook. So let's test that one with the other end of the toothpick. Beautiful. Okay, so that one's done. So 2 more minutes. Okay, thank you for indulging me in my 2-minute dance. We are now ready. Let's check. Oh, perfect. All right, cornbread is ready. Now it needs to cool for about 10 minutes or so before we can eat it. And I will show you me eating it. Yeah, one final thing to note is that it is best to rest these on a wire rack. The reason for that is that it will allow the airflow underneath so that it cools at an even rate and doesn't burn or cool too quickly on one top and then not on the bottom. So yeah, a wire rack is definitely recommended for that. So that's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. This is also a good time to throw some flour on your face, just so that, you know, people know that, you know, you've been baking. I cannot wait to eat that. Now, this is good if you've got time management skills. I don't have time management skills, but if you can time this to be ready for a meal, especially if you've got guests over, and you can serve this scalding hot in the cast iron pan, it's really an impressive thing. It's easy to do, and with a little bit of butter slathered on top, excellent. All right, we are all done. Flour still on my face, because, you know, that's how I roll. This is a little piece of the cornbread that we just made. Okay, so just a little bit of butter. I did it raw, but a little bit of butter. Perfecto. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Ciao.